Welcome back to MonsterTamer, our 2D Pokemon-like RPG Creative Phaser 3. In the last video, we finished implementing our new dynamic camera system. If you haven't seen the previous episode, you can find the link in the description. As always, you can grab the project source code up to this point, along with the completed code for this video, from the links in the description. I'll also include any assets you'll need to follow along, so let's get started. Now, before we move on to our next feature, we're going to finish refactoring some of our code from our world scene that's tied to tiled. When we implemented our dynamic camera system, we started to move some of our tiled logic into two new files, our tiled utils and our tiled keys. And now we're going to take some more of our logic tied to tiled from our world scene and place it in these two files. To get started, we're going to finish adding in the rest of our object layer names. So let's go into our world scene. We do a search for get object layer. We're going to find all of our hard-coded values, and we're going to place these on our object here. So we'll grab our area metadata, come back to our world scene, we'll add that in so we can import it in our object. Now we'll grab our revive location, now we have our player spawn location. Now we have sign. Now we have scene transitions. Now we'll have item. And now I'll have events. Next, at the top of our file, let's grab our type definition for our tiled object property. We're going to move this to our types file. So we'll come down to the bottom of our file. Let's add that in. Now we'll need to fix our references. So I'm just going to update all of our missing imports. That should fix our issue for our types. Now if we come back up to the top of our file, I'm going to take all of our objects here for our custom properties, and we're going to move this to our tiled keys. So let's grab all these objects. We'll move that to our tiled keys file. We'll paste them in. So now we just need to update our objects so we can export them out. I'm going to copy export. We'll add that to each of our objects. So now we come back to our world scene. Let's find our first reference. And I'm going to do add all missing imports. And now if we go ahead and save, we'll do a quick test. So go back to our game. Our game should load. We should be able to move around. And if we look in our developer console, we shouldn't see any errors tied to our game after our refactor. Now, one last thing we'll do for our world scene is we're going to refactor some of our logic tied to when we need to parse our data from tiled. When we add in our logic for our dynamic spawn location, one of the things we had to do is we had to create a tilemap object. That way Phaser could parse out our JSON file from tiled. And so when we did this, we created a brand new Phaser object. We're doing this in multiple locations throughout our world scene. And so what's happening is we're creating multiple objects when we don't really need to, and we could reuse an instance we've already created. So as an example, when we're doing our dynamic spawn location, we're already doing our main_1 level. Above that, we created two additional tile maps tied to when our player gets knocked out. We're also creating a tile map once our player reaches one of our entrances. And then finally, we're creating one for our area that our player is currently in. So when we start a brand new game, we create one when our player spawns, and then we're also creating an additional one right in our create method. Instead of creating a new object each time, we could cache these in our world scene and then reuse them. So to add in that logic, we just need to add a new property to our class to keep track of these. So for our property, we're going to call this tiled level maps. I'm going to copy one of our types. Now for our type, this is going to be an object where our key is going to be a string. And now our type will be our phaser, our tile maps, and then our tile map. So now we'll want to initialize our value. So down in our init method, after we set our scene data, we'll set our tile level maps property to an empty object. And now when we go to create a tile map, we'll want to see if it first exists on our cache, and if it does, return that instance. If it doesn't, then we'll create a new instance. And so to add in that logic, we're going to add in a new method to our class. So we'll come down to the bottom of our class. We'll call this new method getLevelTileMap. We'll pass in one argument. This will be the key of our tile map we want to look up. So now in our method, we're going to do if this, if our tile level maps, if our key exists, we'll return that instance. If that key does not exist, now we need to create our tile map. So we're going to do this, our tile level maps. The provided key will be equal to this.make.tilemap. Now for our configuration, we'll just pass in that key. Now we can return that instance. So I'm going to copy this line of code. Go ahead and paste it. Now for our argument, this will be a string. And we want to return our phaser, our tile maps, and then our tile map. Now we just need to update our code to call our new method. So we'll start up in our init method. So let's copy our key from here. Now remove this line of our code, and we'll do this. We'll do getLevelTileMap. We'll just pass in that string. We'll come down here. Let's copy that string. Now let's replace our line of code. So we'll do this. getLevelTileMap. We'll pass in our string. Now when we do our dynamic spawn, we'll do this. getLevelTileMap. And our world asset keys. So now down in our create method, we'll grab our key, call our new method. Finally, down in our handle entrance entered callback method, let's grab our key. And now we'll call our new method. So now if we save, we should be able to go ahead and test our logic. We'll come over to our game. I'm going to do continue. Now if we take a look at our developer console, we shouldn't see any errors. And now I'm just going to test a new game. So then once we launch our new game, our player spawns at the location we expect, and we should be able to trigger our events. Alright, that's going to wrap up this episode of MonsterTamer. In our next video, we're going to make some enhancements to our signs in our game. We're going to pull in our data from a JSON file. You can find the complete source code for this video in the description below, along with the links to the full series if you need to catch up. If you enjoyed this episode, give it a thumbs up. It really helps others find the series. And if you've been enjoying these phaser tutorials and want to support the channel, I've set up a Ko-fi page. Even a one-time coffee helps me keep making more content like this, and the link's down in the description. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you'll know as soon as the next episode is out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.